Hello, all you reinventors. This is Lesley Jane Seymour, and I'm the founder of this podcast and of CoveyClub.com. And I'm here today to talk to you about somebody who, had to do a lot of, as she says, zig and zag in her lifetime. And things were not a straight path for her, and yet she's terrifically successful and now doing her own thing. And she also works in the habit area, which I think is a very interesting area for anybody who is trying to get unstuck to be at. So let me tell you a little bit about Andrea Engstrom. And she is a writer, producer, and digital media pioneer. She worked for MTV, NBC, ABC, Fox, Yahoo, EA, Microsoft, blah, 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 and all these entrepreneurs at the top of their fields. As I always like to say, another Covey underachiever. She's worked countless red carpets for every major award show, produced behind-the-scenes content for the biggest TV shows, and set digital and social media records. As she says, I love her for this. I get shit done, though she put a little asterisk, so it wouldn't be the whole word. I think that's funny. What I am really good at is shaking up the status quo, which inspired me to create Little Habits, so that you can learn my simple strategies to consistently step outside of your comfort zone and live the life you've daydreamed about. So I'm going to turn this over to my conversation with Andrea. And I think, her point is you never know what's coming at you. You never know how life is going to change. You never how, we all have an idea of how our life might turn out, but rarely does it go that way. And a lot of it involves bobbing and weaving, or zigging and zagging, as she says, around the obstacles of life and still getting to where you want to be. So I think you're going to enjoy this conversation with Andrea. Have fun. So welcome to the podcast, Andrea. Great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
So let's talk about your personal reinvention story just very shortly. I mean, you've done so many things. I mean, it's a long list, which everybody has just heard about in my intro. And what I love is you say, I get shit done. We can curse here. It's fine. But talk a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? What did your parents do? And how did you get started doing what the first part of your career? How did you get that started? And just be brief so we can get through, because it's a lot. And we only have a half hour.
It's a lot.
Right. But
is.
that's great. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, I grew up in a pretty traditional household, and mom and dad both worked. And I had my other dad, who is my biological father, and he lived down in California. I grew up in Washington. And so I moved in with him when I graduated high school. And that was a big leap. I left everything behind. I had no plans whatsoever. That's kind of, and yeah, and that's actually when I started my real relationship with my biological dad, was moving in. And he got sober a couple months into me living with him. It was his first time having a teenager in the house. So he actually, yeah, he had to get his shit together. So yeah, he got sober. And I like to tell people that he learned, he went into AA, and
Wow.
it saved his life. And he is one of the lucky ones that when he got sober, he stayed sober. And what they tell you in the program is that you are the emotional age of when you first started drinking. So basically, it was a 13-year-old boy, me, and an 18-year-old girl.
Wow. Did you have
Yeah.
anything to do with pushing him to be sober, or was that something that he did on his own?
It definitely had to do with me living with him. But it wasn't, I was still of the age where I thought that whatever parents did was the right thing to
Fine.
do. So I knew that he was an alcoholic. I
You
knew that
did.
where,
Mm.
yeah, I knew that if I needed to find him, he ran his own business. If I needed to find him, I knew he'd be at the bar downstairs. You
Wow.
know, and yeah, but I just thought that's, that's who he was.
Hmm.
And he knew what
Hmm.
he was doing,
Hmm.
but yeah, so um we basically grew up together,
Oh, wow.
because he was just kind of learning himself, and I was definitely learning myself. And we ended up doing it together, and that created a very special and unique relationship and understanding between us. And I also want to throw in here that he was an entrepreneur, and the household I grew up in was a very like company corporate. You have your steady job and all that kind of stuff. So I had that belief in me that I was going to work for one company and that was going to be it. So, um,
And I
and
see you
and
succeeded at that. Not. Yeah. Right.
not not
Okay.
even a
Right.
little bit.
Not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so fast forward, and I ended up going to school in San Francisco, which was very lucky because this little thing called the internet was starting right when I graduated college. And that's where I went to work for Electronic Arts, which is a video game company, as a technical writer. I got my degree in writing, in creative
Hmm.
writing.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess the short of that is it was a horrible, stressful, like really emotionally damaging job because I don't know if you know that much about the video game industry,
Oh, it's
but
the bro
definitely,
culture. The
oh
mean,
my Lord,
they
it's
hate
the
women, right? Yeah.
big time. And this is
Wow.
before, like, I had any idea that that
Right.
was
A
even a thing.
possibility. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that was really, really hard. I was, I'm a really tough, independent woman. And like, I'll remind you that I thought that the, first company job that I had to stay in. So I
Mm.
definitely stayed past, um,
Right.
I would pull into the parking lot at EA and I would cry
Oh,
before I'd go
man.
into it was just, yeah, it was hard. Um, so that was I ended up leaving that job um by the seat of my pants as well. Like I decided I had a really good um conversation with a friend that a male friend that I really admired, um and I as he was like listening to me and responding to me and stuff, it was just so apparent like that how I would get talked over at work and, put
Mm.
down and really made fun of and made to feel
Oh,
like, and yeah, like, made to feel like I had no value. So it
right.
had really, I knew that I had to bail quickly. And so that's what I did. I had the background that I felt like I could get a temp job. And um, and and that's actually what I ended up doing. And the 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 next job that I got was in the internet at EA. I ended up volunteering on their first ever website. At the designer, it was a team of three basically, putting together
Hmm.
the first EA website. So
Wow. I'm going to
so I
speed
had
you
that
up
on.
because we've got to get through a
Yes,
lot. But
I'm so
how did
sorry.
you get, that's okay. How did you get to television? Because you're a
Well,
writer,
yeah.
producer. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Leapfrog us up.
I'll leapfrog you. Yeah, so that was the getting into digital in San Francisco. I was chosen to go down to LA and basically fix NBC.com and with
Ah.
another group. Yeah, and that's what got me down to LA in the TV industry. And that's where I stayed for about 13 years. And in that, I worked at some really great places. I was very successful at what I was doing. I set and broke records. And it was it I have so many amazing things that happened during that time.
That's great.
One of the really hard things was that my dad suddenly died. And he died at 56. And he had just had a baby.
Mm.
And I was 34, and my baby brother was 2 months old when my dad passed. And I was on my second day of work at Yahoo.
Oh,
So
wow. Oh my God.
yeah.
Was
It
was there a mother involved? Was there somebody at home for the
Oh,
baby or?
absolutely. My brother's mom. Yeah. Yep.
Ah, okay.
She and my dad were engaged
Oh,
when my dad passed.
oh dear.
Yeah, so that's a really important key piece of my journey because I just started at Yahoo, and dealing with this major loss, and major change, and I really put everything into my work. And as many of us do, I burned myself out.
Right.
And to a point where because I was also going down to San Diego from LA every weekend to help with my little brother, and my dad's estate and all of that.
Mm.
And so I just I physically broke down. I had no immune system. I was
Oh,
sick all the
wow.
time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And and I left. I ended up. Um, I'll leapfrog here again. Like 7 years after my dad died, I was still going down to San Diego every weekend. I had actually bought a little house down in San Diego so that I had, some place that I could stay every weekend. And um, and I owned my condo in LA, and this is also key to what I will advise people to do. I had my degree in writing, and here I
Mhm.
was I was creating every day in my job, but it was from a content and yeah, I'm going to say a content standpoint, and covering. I love TV, and so it was like covering
Mhm.
shows and covering musicians and all that, just the industry basically. Um, and I wanted to be somebody who was actually creating the content that I was covering. And so I that was always my plan A. I felt like I was living my plan B. And I was like killing myself at my plan B. You know? So I called my realtor and sold my condo, quit my job, moved full time down to San Diego, and I had this financial runway with the equity from my condo to reestablish myself, to create my new chapter. And this is also key. This was a key part of my decision making, and I think you'll relate with this as well, being in the industry that you were in. I was watching really talented women pushed out by 50. And
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's one of the big issues. I mean, we did a whole big
right?
study with NBC because so many women at Covey Club were saying that they were being pushed out in their 50s. And
Yep.
yes,
It
absolutely. It's
yeah.
so interesting. It is pervasive still. So you were seeing it from your end. Interesting.
Oh, for sure. And from the beginning of my career, I was seeing it happen. And I think that's important to note is that as a 30-year-old and a 40-year-old, I was watching women that I really admired that were being diminished and pushed out.
Right.
And so I got the message pretty quickly that was definitely going to happen to me,
Right.
and I wanted to get in front of that. um
Hmm.
and this goes back to my dad being an entrepreneur. I was like, I think I can do that. Can I think I can be my own boss and, figure that out. And and what I'll say to your listeners who have the same thoughts, um, it it takes it takes I was going to say twice as long as you think it will, but it takes maybe 4 to 5 times longer than you think it will to build something.
Oh,
Um,
good. Good to hear that because that's frustrating. I mean, I'm at this for 7 years with CoveyClub and I'm like, oh my God, hell, like
right?
it's hard to make there's different stages and you get past one stage and it's free sailing for maybe a year and then you've got to start
Yes.
all over again.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, and you're
Yep.
like, okay, now I'm stuck. Now how do I scale? I don't know how to do that. So it's starting all over again. That's interesting. So five
Exactly.
times. I love that. 5 times what you
I would
think. I
say
love that.
exactly, exactly. And I was actually just talking to one of my friends who's also a coach about, what would you advise your best friend if your best friend came to you with the wild idea that you had? Like
Right.
and of course as a coach you're like, like let's hear it,
Right.
um but if it's your best friend and they're coming to you, that's absolutely, she and I both agreed, like the hard truth is like definitely go for it. I would absolutely say go for it. It's high risk. There's going to
Right.
be a lot of valleys, emotional valleys,
Oh,
physical
yes.
valleys, and
Oh, yes.
financial valleys.
Oh, yes. I'm so
You're gonna,
glad we talked today. I actually think this is my therapy session. Okay.
oh,
You
good.
can
Oh,
you can
good.
send me a bill at the end. How's that? Okay. Interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Do you
I'm gonna,
do
sorry,
you
go
think we
ahead.
just don't know the reality, Andrea? Or do you think we've just fantasized about this too much? Or do you think like
Well,
why are we so off base about I guess we just hear the success stories, right? We hear
I think,
it sounds like it
yeah,
was overnight and it never is, right?
that's exactly, you nailed it right there. I think that definitely in the media culture that we live in, and especially in the like inspiration American culture, it's definitely like let's hear the successes, let's hear the wins, and I think that that is important. And 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 also in I think you and I both are very we pay attention to the little wins. Like the little wins, there's
Oh
those
yeah, yeah,
little
yeah.
lily pads, that are going to get you across more than like I always joke with my friends, like after I do a launch I'm like floodgates, this is where it's all going to happen.
Right, right,
um and so but I think you have to have that spirit when you're working as hard as you are on something, on a labor of love. And especially when that labor of love has to pay the bills.
right.
um that's really, it's really tough.
That's
If you
scary. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've diversified how I make money. One of them is I Airbnb my little home in San Diego, while I am up keeping my mom company in her place in Washington. And this is also where I also will preface, I don't have kids. I'm not married. It really is just me that I have to worry about. And that's a huge privilege that
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just want to
yeah.
put out there.
It is. Yeah.
And
Those
and
kids
and
will drain you.
well, well, there's a whole level of responsibility
Yeah.
that I didn't
True.
have, in
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of like
it's
taking
true.
that risk and putting
Yeah,
myself
yeah,
out there.
yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that yeah, you have to have that willingness to take the risk, but you have to absolutely, I can't imagine doing it without the belief that you're going to be able to pull it off.
Correct.
And I'm sure that that I lived on the saying, like, build your wings on the way down, take that leap and build your wings on the way down.
I like
That's
that.
that
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely my mentality. I have the belief in myself that I'll be able to figure it out, and if I don't, I'll be able to figure out how to land without breaking my neck. You know? But yeah, so I Airbnb my place. I also do gig work. I do consulting. I do my coaching, obviously. So I have a lot of different levers that I can pull to bring in an income, and I think that that's important. Like even like my financial runway of having the equity in my condo that I sold, which was that was a lot, and I thought I could do it like 5 years of a runway to really get myself started on my
Wow,
next thing. Yeah.
that's great.
Um, it was great. And I also, because I had worked so hard, I spent that 5 years traveling, spending time with family, spending time with friends, and really living a full life. I really, we all need that.
Right,
But I needed that to heal. I was so broken.
right.
Um, yeah. So yeah.
So talk about the little habit idea, because that's
Mm,
where we connected. I'm a tiny habits coach. Um,
yep.
how did you create it? What is it? And where and how do you teach it?
Well, thank you. So my business is Lil Habit. That's lilhabit.com, LIL. And I came up with that um right out of the pandemic. Like literally out of the pandemic. I had been, I don't know about you, but in lockdown I was by myself. So that was like 16 months.
Oof,
I know,
oof.
I know. And my mom has not been doing well, and that was 2 years of not seeing her. And she had also been isolated during the pandemic.
Mm.
So I was on my long drive up with my dog and my cat, and long drive up from San Diego to the coast of Washington. And on that drive up, I just started thinking about how much I know when I'm going through something, I know that a lot of other people are probably going through the same thing. And I started thinking about the things that I had done in my life where I had been, where I had successfully shifted, and they had all been related to a consistent little habit. Showing up every day for that one little thing, for me, has always shifted me from being stuck to in a whole new zone. And and when I kind of broke down the method that I used and the tools that I had learned along the way, which a lot of them, well, a couple of them are really centered in Zen Buddhism. So being present, the metacognition, being the observer of your thoughts, um, all of those pieces are interconnected with the little habit. So it's really about shifting from the American idea of like all or nothing, go big or go
Oh
home.
God, don't you think that's toxic? I think
It's the worst.
that's and I love the idea that, everything's bigger in America, everything's bigger in Texas. But this is
Right.
where it's self-defeating. And when I started
Oh,
Covey Club, I can't tell you how many people said to me, they were like, well, it's not Google. And I'm like,
oh,
I no
oh,
shit, Sherlock. It's a
right,
small business. Like, it doesn't have to be Google. Like,
right.
why are you even saying that? Of
Yeah.
course it's not.
Well, and
There's
I also
five
I
Googles. That's it. Like, I don't have to
right,
have a
and I bet
unicorn to be happy, you know?
exactly. And I bet that that hits in a very specific way for a woman who has been at the top of her game, who has been successful, who has been at the table, you know?
Oh yeah. No. And you feel
Yeah,
like, oh, then maybe I shouldn't do this. Like it's too much of a
right.
step down. And that's just so defeating. So
It
did you
is.
hear
It
that kind of
is.
stuff too?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only did I hear it from other people, but I heard it in my mind. And
Oh, you
I think
did.
that, yeah, because I think that that has a lot, when you're successful and you've been at the table and you've been in those rooms, I think that it's hard for that not to be part of your identity. And so I've released those pieces of my identity. I love to tell those stories, and I love to tell them because I think people get a kick out of them.
Mhm.
Um, and also it does tell you where I've been and what I've been through, but it's not who I am. I'm not even, little habit, I'm just me. I'm just a person out here. My values and priorities are really about the people that I love, and making sure that I show up the best that I can. And Little Habit was really born from that. I lost two very important people in my life during the pandemic, my older brother and one of my best friends. And I know that when I'm thinking about helping people get through a tough moment, get through being stuck, which is a very hard place for people to be,
Right.
especially, I know you also coach. We work with people at the crossroads where they're making
Right.
big decisions, even little decisions that are big.
Right.
um, and it's important to be able to be with people in those moments. And that's really where the little habit method is something that I like to say is, you can't fail at it. It's impossible to fail at it because failure's built in. It's important for you to fail. It's important for you to fail quickly,
Right.
and find your edges and get out of your comfort zone,
Right.
and follow your curiosity, and that's where joy lives. Joy. I had great successes, and that was fun, but real joy for me is very different. It's just that presence, that, like, being here and now. And just like right now, my dog is asleep next to me. I'm having this wonderful conversation with you. Like, this is joy. This is what's great.
Yeah, being present. Can you give us just, we have a few minutes before we finish. Give us an idea of what the little habits are that you teach. Like what is a little habit that someone might pick up in order to, if they're stuck? Like just give us a 101. Is there something you start with, or is
Well,
each person
absolutely.
individual, or
It's definitely individual, but I do have a list of 50 little habits, and it's like the one I just started recently myself is, the first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is I drink a glass of water, like a whole glass of water. And I, is that part of your morning routine as well?
I
That
did it for a
hydrating?
long time. I have not lately, which reminds me I should go back to it. But yes, it definitely makes a difference. And because I was going to bed
It
usually here, because
does.
it's so hot in New Orleans, before I went to bed, I'd be totally dehydrated, especially in the summer because it's broiling here.
Mm.
Um, and so I started doing that. Boy, did that make a difference. I've not done it through the winter. We actually do have a winter here. It's just not that harsh. But that's a good one because people don't realize how that does wake you up. And then also your other hormones and things like that, apparently from the reading I've done, don't kick in till 90 minutes after you're awake. And
Mm.
sometimes what they're saying is if you, these functional medicine guys, they say if you take your coffee too soon, you miss the natural
Yep.
pop up. What you want to do is be 90 minutes out, take your coffee then, and then the two combine, and then you really are off and to the races. You don't need so much of the coffee. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's a good one. Does make you feel
Yeah.
better.
It does. It energizes me.
Right.
It just, and also, just like you said, it just makes me feel better.
Right.
But it's the act of showing up, at consciously doing something, that follow through, there's also, you know, you get the serotonin or the dopamine, whatever the habit charged, you get that good feedback and create that that whole feedback loop, which I know that you're familiar with habits, and really savoring that reward, being, and again, being present with that reward. So the little habit can be anything that you want it to be. I recommend that you start small, 5 to 20 minutes max. And one of the things that we do in Little Habit is we create a frictionless version, which can be like, say, for example, if you do morning pages, and you say like, you know, I'm going to do 10 minutes of free writing in the morning. The frictionless version would be, I'm going to do 60 seconds or 30
Yeah.
seconds of free writing. And
Right.
and we think that, and you know this, but you know, we think that that we have to follow through on the whole habit in order to complete that feedback loop and do that, you know, great little neural pathway. But you don't. You actually, if you show up on those days where it's just, you're just not feeling it, and you just, you know, touch that little habit,
Mm-hmm.
and you complete that feedback loop, and
Right.
and that's what it's all about. So, but the big thing that I work with people, and this is part of my creative background, is, and I taught this in one of your CoveyClub classes, but it's meeting your resistance. And Stephen Pressfield is the one who introduced me to resistance, the idea of resistance, and it's that that inner voice that pops up that tells you, like, for whatever reason, you know, don't start now, you're not good enough, wait till tomorrow. It's that thing that shows up. And the masculine version is what Stephen Pressfield presented, which is like, you battle that resistance and you know, beat it down and you win, and you know, and my version of resistance work is, you meet your resistance, you pay attention to it, what's it telling you, you honor what it's telling you, like, and you know, like, I am tired, you're right, I am really tired, I worked really hard, but I'm going to do this anyway because it makes me feel better to do it. And having that meet with your resistance, is a strategy that you can repeat time after time after time, and your resistance is going to pop up every time you want to step out of your comfort zone. So speaking of reinventing yourself, you're going to be way out of your comfort zone. You know? So,
Right.
so working with your resistance, meeting it with compassion, and understanding, and taking it seriously, like honoring what it's saying. And then instead of like, shut up, go away, you know, really listen to
Right.
what it's saying. It does have some wisdom. It's probably not for you right now. You know, it's not the it's working, you know, it's not working with where you want to be right now, and you just have to,
Correct.
like, yeah, with grace, meet it there.
Wonderful. Well, wonderful. Andrea, where can people find you?
The best place, easiest place to find me is Lil Habit, LILHABIT.com. And I have a Substack, where I publish articles every week. And I'm also on Instagram at Lil Habit for you, number 4 in
You.
letter U.
Awesome. Well, thank you for spending time with us, and thank you for the time you spent with Covey. That was really helpful. And hopefully we will see you again soon, and take care.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lesley.
So I hope you all enjoyed this conversation with Andrea Engstrom, and I hope you got some good tips about how to start little to make your life change and move. And if this was helpful to you, please follow the podcast. Please leave us some stars and leave us a review. That's really helpful if you can, especially on Apple Podcasts. That helps us rise higher and people to find us. If you're serious about your reinvention, come on over to CoveyClub.com and get our newsletter. We have a lot of information for you. We have classes, we have um, uh, challenges, we have pods, we have all kinds of things. We're now doing travel, which is really exciting. Um, we have all kinds of things that might help you move forward in your reinvention. If you just go to the site and put into the little spyglass the word reinvention, you will pull down free guides, free checklists, free everything that we know about reinvention. And as we say, it could be a big reinvention or a small reinvention, it doesn't matter. And if you would like some support while you're reinventing, and again, I always say it's better to reinvent in a group and not alone, come join the Covey Club. That's what we're all about. We help each other get to where we're going by sharing our expertise and sharing our contacts and helping each other move forward. So I hope this has been helpful to you, and I hope to see you next time. So take care.